All right, it is time to talk some Cincinnati Bengals here on the show. Our next guest is standing by. He is waiting in the wings, and his name is Joe Goodberry, and he's making some time for us here at the show. Joe, how's it going? Can you hear me? I appreciate you stopping by, brother.
I can hear you, Stone. How you doing? I'm doing good, man.
Good. Awesome. Thanks for making some time here. So Joe Goodberry, of course, does a tremendous job kind of breaking down the film aspect of Cincinnati Bengals football. So, Joe, my plan here is I'm just going to roll through kind of a bunch of players, kind of give you my thoughts on how they've performed so far this year, and you can just let us know what the film kind of says about some of these guys. And you were talking about this on your show earlier this week. Unfortunately, I mean, the Bengals aren't technically eliminated from the playoffs yet, but it very much feels like it's kind of evaluation mode here for this team, finding out which guys you can perhaps count on in 2026. I think both of us would like to see some guys get removed from the lineup and some younger guys or guys that aren't playing maybe get inserted a little bit. But I do want to start with some of these DBs. We'll start with Dax. I've defended Dax. I thought it was the right call when Cincinnati picked up his fifth-year option. I think you can play winning football with Dax Hill. Has he been perfect? Absolutely not. But, if there's two guys on this defense that you can kind of count on next year, I think Dax Hill and DJ Turner would be two of those guys. What does the film say about Dax Hill? How do you feel about him potentially staying with this team for several more years?
Yeah, so last year when he was moved to boundary corner, that wasn't a position I thought he would be great at, to be honest with you. When he was coming out of Michigan, I thought slot box type defender. So when they originally made him a free safety, I was like, okay, let's see how this experiment goes. It didn't go well, and then he played decently well on the boundary last year before getting hurt. And then we heard this year he's going to go into the slot, right? And I was really excited for that because I was like, that's where he's going to really shine. You can do a lot of things with him. You can be versatile with him. You can blitz. You can he's a long, athletic guy, which you didn't have in coverage with Mike Hilton before. So I thought you could really amplify his skill set. And in the first few weeks, I thought they did. And then the defense kind of got spooked into what they can and can't do. You couldn't really depend on the third corner as Cam Taylor-Britt was coming on and off the bench. Josh Newton really never took that next step. So I think they pared it down a lot on defense. And I think Dax was the guy to take the hit there because you couldn't use his versatility. So now he's just a big athletic guy that isn't being asked to do a whole lot and in a defense that isn't generating pressure. So while I watch him, I still like him, but he's not in position to make any plays. And that when you have a whole defense like that, you end up with the worst defense in the last 25 years. But at the same time, you're not maximizing some of your guys that potentially could be playmakers. So that's my biggest thing with Dax is I would like a few more plays with him. I think he tackles really well. I think he defends the run really well, but that's only worth so much when you're a corner.
DJ this year having a really good year, but to be clear, he was a high-end draft pick, and it didn't exactly start perfectly. Remember, Dax took the job when he was switching from safety to corner, and then he kind of beat him out. And then, of course, Turner, integrated himself into the lineup and was starting to play good football before he had that clavicle injury against the Chargers last year. But he has shined in a few of these games. I think big reason you won the Pittsburgh game on Thursday night, played good against Green Bay there as well. What's kind of your take on him and his performance? Can he be a number one corner for this team for several years? And do you think about potentially extending him this offseason?
Yeah, I'm really happy with DJ Turner this season. He's really the only guy that has been healthy and good, right? Because we know Trey's good when he's out there. But if you're going to vote for a Pro Bowler, and there's not many on the Bengals roster right now, and there's even less on the defensive side, vote for DJ Turner. He has been that good. I know we see the plays where the ball actually goes in his direction. He's got a ton of passes defense. He's gotten his hands on the ball a bunch this year. His coverage is super sticky. But when even the plays he's not targeting, when you watch the tape, he is very, very good in man coverage. And they're playing man coverage as much as anyone, so he really gets a chance to shine. That is what he does. He's not the biggest, most physical guy, but, man, he has turned his trajectory where he was at one point. I think people were like, yeah, another bad defensive pick. But those flashes last year in that Chargers game before that clavicle, and then right into this, if you remember the camp when he had 5 passes defense in that one practice when they were in the bubble, it should have told us then that like he is on something in year 3. And at 25 years old, yeah, I would extend him. You have the prime of a corner until about 27, and then they start to fall off a cliff. Yeah. So you can keep him for another 3 years. So extend, put 2 to 3 years on it. Maybe that last year is kind of fake as it is in the NFL. And yeah, I would be trying to extend DJ Turner and building from there.
You spent a lot of time this week talking about Myles Murphy. He certainly has frustrated most of the fan base throughout his career here in Cincinnati at this point. You've seen some better things for him as the season has gone on. Earlier, the Minnesota game, we all try to forget about that. There were some good moments there in that game, and I think clearly this game against Pittsburgh, probably the best game of his career. What would the film say about him? How would you evaluate his performance against Pittsburgh, and can he continue to build off this? Could he potentially turn into a one or two edge rusher that you can count on, or is this kind of just a one-off and you don't expect him to continue this growth, I guess?
Man, it would be nice if he did turn into a 1 or 2 type edge rusher. At the very least, can he be a usable 3 or 4? Because they don't really have that right now. They came into the season hoping Shamar, Myles, maybe even Osai could build off what he ended up with last year, and one of these guys would be the number 2. It really didn't happen, and in fact, they had to be thrust into number 1 type roles with Trey being out. I think that's been good for Myles, though. He's played the most snaps he has in one single season in his career this year now. He's going to have with probably one more game, which will match his pass rushing snap high. He'll probably surpass his pressures, the most pressures he's ever had. He's on pace to break his sacks most sacks he's ever had. His run defense grade from PFF is the highest it's ever been. He's had more tackles and more run stops than he's ever had. So, yeah, he's taken progress. He's taken step forwards, but is it enough? He's got a really good get off. He's still an athlete, but his moves just don't string together. He doesn't look like a guy that has the moves of a number 1 type pass rusher. But can you get a long, athletic guy to help you as a number 2, 3, or 4? Yes, for sure. And that was the problem. That was the biggest frustration the last couple of years. It's like there's no reason why Myles shouldn't be helping you in some capacity. And there were games where he'd get 8 snaps and the pass rushes, there's nothing out there. Mm-hmm. And while I wasn't the biggest fan of Myles Murphy coming out, I still believe a guy like that should be able to help most defenses in the league. And I think we got a flash of that against the Steelers. Now, he's had some really good games in his career. Never been able to really build off it and keep it going. That's the difference between a number 3 or 4 rusher and a number 1 or 2, as they start to churn it out weekly. They start to have these consistent flashes. Maybe it's not every week. Maybe it's every other week. But you have now 7 more games to go. Myles is going to play a ton. And if he can perform more like he did against the Steelers, yeah, that'll change our mind on whether or not he can be a number 2, or is he more just a depth help you guy in year 4? Because he's going to be here in year 4. A lot of these defensive guys are under contract. They're going to be here. You got to find a way and get an answer on if they can help you.
Another guy, of course, you touched on there is Joseph Osai. He's kind of on that 1-year prove-it deal here this year for Cincinnati. I would have liked to see them kind of move off him last year. I just thought there was more changes that need to be made, and they opted to bring him back. They, of course, brought B.J. Hill back there as well. When I watch Osai, I certainly can appreciate his effort, which we'll talk about the back end of the defense in a little bit. But he's always trying his best. He's always trying to make plays, but you're kind of asking him, especially with Trey being out, to kind of be that guy, and I'm not quite sure he is capable of that. But if you were in a spot where he could be like a 3, he would be an outstanding 3. What's kind of your take on Joseph Osai, his performance this year? Do you think he's going to garner a big-time contract, or maybe not a big-time contract, but a sizable contract elsewhere next year, and just his overall performance this year?
Yeah, you're right. He's a hustle player. He's an effort player, and sometimes that makes him a little bit wild and makes him a wild card out there. He misses tackles at a high rate. I think all the defensive linemen are not great tacklers, and I don't think that's a great mix to have across the board. I think they should prioritize that a little bit more. Osai being one of them that just seems to miss and go high too often. And probably ruins his chance. I mean, what was it, the Bears game? He had like 6 pressures in that game. None of them could come down with sacks. Nobody could tackle Caleb Williams. But if someone could, that may have changed the game and gave the Bengals a win there. So while I appreciate him on tape, he's probably their best run-defending defensive end right now. That's not saying much. Again, I enjoy watching him for his effort. But, yeah, I think he is a DN3 at most, which would be fine if you had a really good 1 and 2. I would love to have Osai as a depth guy that can kick inside and be versatile and do different things for you. I think he's their best-looking guy when they got to drop a D-end into coverage, too. So he has his traits, and he will play in the league. I'm with you. I think it's time to move on in the offseason, let him flourish somewhere else. He's only 25. He's got time. He's got another step in his game. I think it just maybe was another defense that maybe could maximize him.
Talk about him having great effort. Somebody that hasn't had the best effort, of course, is Geno Stone. I was talking about this with Paul Dehner yesterday. Clearly, there's something going on behind the scenes. The coaching staff doesn't trust Tyson Anderson for whatever reason. But I'm ready to try something new at that safety spot. They keep running out Geno Stone for mass snaps, and clearly it's not working. And just how bad has the film been on him? Because, those of us that just kind of watch it on TV, we can see how bad it is, but it's got to look even worse on films. Your thoughts on that? And also, can we expect Tyson Anderson to make an appearance at all? Because we all love him on special teams, but he just hasn't even had an opportunity to get on the field on defense.
Yeah, you're right. I would love to see Tyson Anderson as well. Because it's time. We can't let Geno Stone's just so soft coming up to make a tackle. It looks like he doesn't want to make a tackle. He looks like, hey, you guys maybe take a pay cut in the offseason. So the Bengals were aware of it too. That's the part that frustrates me. Like, you knew he was not good. You asked him to take a pay cut, and now he's out there playing 100% of the snaps basically. Yeah. And it's starting to infect the defense. If you had to say one guy, because they've pointed him out as a leader. Even Al Golden said, we got Geno Stone. We really like him as a leader of this defense. Well, he's leading them down the wrong path. So, it's funny thing is, though, the tape is actually better than the plays on TV, because he does do his responsibility, which is probably why they keep playing him. And so, they haven't really let up the explosives over their head. The safety play, in terms of not allowing anyone beating you deep, has been pretty good this year. They haven't had the big miscommunications and the big explosions against them. And I think that's why they're playing Geno Stone still. But, man, you need someone to come up and tackle. You need someone that's going to play faster. You need someone that isn't afraid to come up and make a mistake either. And I think Stone's just going through the motions out there. And it's just not – if the defense is going to be bad in a lot of ways, the one thing they can do is be fast and physical to the ball and rally to the ball. And I think Stone's play just does not allow that to be a cultural thing for this defense. And I'm willing to try anything. The Bengals say, hey, we don't trust Tyson Anderson or PJ Jules. Dejon Anthony just had his 21-day window open this morning, so he can return to practice. Maybe he'll be activated at some point. If you don't trust those guys, number one, from the front office, what are you doing? You should have got a good depth player in here. Right. Number two, I don't trust you guys in your evaluation. So I don't care if you don't trust them. I want to see them play.
One more on defense before we transition to offense. Didn't do a ton in free agency. If there was one quote-unquote bigger signing, I guess it was TJ Slayton. I had some optimism about it when they made the move. You had the relationship with Jerry Montgomery in Green Bay. There had been some success, but clearly, up the middle, it hasn't been enough from a pressure standpoint, a run stopping standpoint. It's been kind of tough sledding for him, and the Bengals, ever since DJ Reader's departure, have really struggled to kind of fill that hole. What's the film say on TJ Slayton, and is he struggling as much as we think he is?
Well, he's not DJ Reader, right? Reader was excellent in what he did. He was such a good two-gapper, could hold his ground. And when you watch Slayton, he is good at holding his ground. He is good at keeping the line of scrimmage where it's supposed to be, holding at the point of attack. He does not have the athleticism and the moves and the technical prowess to really affect the play more often. So when I watch him on tape, I'm like, yeah, he's a big rock in there. They're struggling to move him from the point. That is valuable. But I need the other defensive tackles to make some splash plays if that's who he is, because I see him and I'm like, the guy's running right next to him, the hole's right next to him, the running back's getting through there. He just doesn't have the ability to disengage and make a play in the hole there. He doesn't have the ability to push the pocket or really get into the backfield and really cause chaos. Okay, well, he's good for what he does. And it sounds like a lot of these guys are like that, right? They're good at what they are in this small little role, but I need other guys around him. I need a playmaker around him in order to really make this thing work. And they don't. So they have one more year on Slayton's deal. It's not too expensive. You could keep him if you want to. If they wanted to move on and use the money from like a BJ Hill and a Slayton to go get one guy that could be an impactful defensive tackle, I wouldn't be against that at all.
Great stuff here. Joe Goodberry joining us live here on the show, Bengals on the Brain on YouTube, for a couple of more minutes. Let's transition to the offensive side of the football. Let's talk about Yoshi here. He was a sixth-round pick, obviously, a couple of years ago. When Burrow was playing, he was great, right, out there with Higgins and Chase, and he was a threat on third down, certainly a threat in the red zone. This year's been kind of tough sledding for him. Look, if you're a number 3 receiver, you can't drop the football, right? When it's coming your way, you got to make catches, and unfortunately, he's had a few too many drops so far this year. Had a solid first quarter against Pittsburgh, was a big reason why they were able to go down and score a touchdown there on that opening drive. What's the film say about him? How do you feel about him potentially sticking around as a wide receiver 3? Can the Bengals count on him to be that guy going forward?
Yeah, to me, he looks more like a wide receiver 4, right? Okay. And then for an offense that's really this has been the struggle since the Jets, the Bears, and now the game last week, is defenses are doing double-double and doubling both Jamar and T on money downs, right? Third downs, fourth downs, big downs. They're straight up doubling these guys. And they're saying, hey, we don't think Noah Fant and Chase Brown or Andre Yosevich can beat us. And if they do, you know what? We'll take that. As a defense, we're not going to let Jamar and T dunk on us 50 yards downfield. So let's see if Yoshi can win one-on-one in man coverage. And he hasn't been able to in those situations. not consistently enough. You really need that number 3. It really makes you go, man, Tyler Boyd, that's why that offense worked so well, because Boyd would just undress a guy one-on-one right there, right? And you don't need Tyler Boyd. I don't need a 950-yard type receiver as the number 3, but I need a guy that can win in a particular skill set. Whether it's really good against zone coverage and he's really smart, dependable type guy that can sit down like a TJ Hushmanzada type, or a guy that is a jitterbug that can get open really quickly and make you pay after the catch, maybe like an Andrew Hawkins, right? Using some old Bengals as an example here. You don't always need that level, but I need a type that can do something. I'm not sure what Yoshi does really well. He's at the bottom of the barrel after the catch. He's at the bottom of the barrel in terms of blocking. He's just a big, fast guy that at times does make some really nice plays. And here's the frustrating part too, and this goes for Noah Fant and Yoshi. When you watch the offense, there are times they are locked in on Jamar and T, and the defense is really ignoring Yoshi and Noah Fant. And these guys are open downfield. And you go, man, you know what? There is more meat on the bone for both those guys, especially Yoshi. That maybe if we did throw to him more often, his numbers, his production, the perception would be better, especially downfield. Let him use that speed. Let him use that big body of his. And they just never come. They're never there for them. It seems like they're running clear out routes to open up the offense for the other players, the star players.
This next question is pretty direct and blunt. What the heck happened to Orlando Brown Jr.?
So he was never a great athlete, right? That's why he was supposed to be a first-round pick. There was talk when he was when that draft process was starting, he was a top 15 type pick. I believe the Bengals were in that range, and a lot of people were mocking Orlando Brown Jr. to the Bengals at that spot. And then he got to the combine and he ended up being like a less than 1 percentile athlete, right? Great size, but just could not move. He goes in the 3rd round because of it. He goes to the Ravens, a heavy run team. He never really gets exposed doing that at right tackle. And then the Chiefs are when he goes to the Chiefs, he's still a Pro Bowl type player because they get rid the ball so quickly. And that offense helped him so much in terms of chips and just putting extra attention over on that side to really not expose him too often. I thought he was good the first year with the Bengals. I thought he was okay last year when he was healthy. Injuries have started and age have started to sap that little bit of athleticism he had. And now when I watch him this year, he's still like 70% of the time fine. And you can have that. It's just those moments where I think he overestimates what athleticism he has remaining. And like that play against Nick Herbig where he never even gets a hand on him. He's trying to jump set and then C-set on him. And like he just can never get out there. That's a lot of distance to run for a guy that is not that athletic anymore. And he's trying to get out on Herbig, and he just never really gets a hand on the guy because he can't do that anymore. They need to really say, okay, what is Orlando Brown right now? If he can't move, we need to give Chip help on that side. It's time for Marius Mims to be the island type guy on the right side. And we need to funnel with that Chip help the rusher directly into Orlando Brown Jr. and make him run through the big guy, right? And that would save him a little bit more from having these big highlight losses. I think he's still serviceable for 1 more year. His cap hit's big, but it's like the 19th highest cap hit for offensive tackles in 2026. So unless you got another left tackle to step in, it's probably Orlando Brown for 2026, and you got to figure out how to use him and how this offense can protect him. And I think these are the steps. We're at that phase now. The coaches are probably wondering the same thing. You give up 7 sacks this year. All right, we need to change what we do with him. And from here now, we're looking for the adjustment.
Another guy on the offensive line, I think Jaylen Rivers has kind of been a pleasant surprise. I understand he hasn't graded out very well along the offensive line, but this is a guy that, played a lot of tackle and probably wasn't expected to play here his rookie year, and all of a sudden, boom, he's in there at guard and starting a lot of games for you. And again, hasn't graded out the best according to PFF. You definitely see him look uncomfortable and get beat from time to time. But what's the film say about him? He seems like he's a serviceable player, to say the least, no?
I like his energy, especially in the run game. He's the one pushing the pocket or pushing the pile and trying to get extra yards and helping guys out. That way, I think his chemistry with Mims has been really good. There was some issues there with no matter who they were plugging in next to Mims, that the stunts were killing them. On the play that Burrow got hurt, it was a stunt between Dalton Risner and Marius Mims that they couldn't pick up and adequately set the pocket depth. And I think Rivers has helped that a lot on that side. But in isolation, if you put the microscope on him, he is the worst pass blocker they have on the offensive line, even worse than Orlando Brown. Like he is, when he gets isolated and defenses are starting to do this, they are beating him pretty easily. He is a heavier, bigger, stronger guy that doesn't move laterally well at all. So they like to get him take one step one way or just a pause, and then they're going to beat him across his face with a finesse move. And they are having a lot of success doing that. He's given up about 4 to 6 pressures per game right now, which he's on pace to give the most pressures of any guard in the league. If he had enough snaps on a per rate basis, he's going to be, if he continues and finishes this season, he's going to probably end up with the most pressures allowed of any guard, which you don't want, and you don't want to see that. I do like parts of them, but maybe those parts are what a backup offensive lineman looks like. If Joe Burrow returns, and it sounds like he will inevitably, I'm not sure I want 5 pressures a game coming from that right guard spot. Give me somebody that has a longer track record of being able to pass protect, whether that's Lucas Patrick or Dalton Reisner.
Final question here for you, Joe, kind of putting you on the spot here. A player that has surprised you the most in a good way and a player that has surprised you the most in a bad way. Again, obviously, we all watch the game on TV, but when you take a look at the film, what's one player that has surprised you both good and bad?
So I'll start with the bad so we can end on a high note. On the bad is Jordan Battle. Jordan Battle is supposed to be physical. He's supposed to be this downhill. He's willing to hit, willing to tackle, right? If he's not that, I don't know what he is, because I think you end up with a guy, if he's not a physical player, if I take that out of his scouting profile, well, then he's not a great athlete. He doesn't have great ball skills, right? He doesn't have great range. I don't think he processes very quickly in coverage. Yeah. So what does he have then? I don't know what he has if he's not that. So in the games, and there's some games in flash, it's not like the Geno Stone level. There are some times where I'm like, there you go, Battle. Come down the hill, lay that hit. There it is. But he needs to realize, if you're not that and not that all the time, teams will have no use for you. That has to be who you are in order to get on the field. So hopefully he can finish that way and find that consistent spark. Again, we talked about that with Myles. Like that's the difference between a starting player and a backup, is consistently being that guy more often. And the games where he's just not that, it's so disappointing to me, because that's like trying to be something you're not, trying to, you're not leaning into what your strengths are. And every player should be striving to understand what they are, I think, is number one, and then to be that as much as you can be. And then on the positive side, Samaje Perine, man, I feel like Perine has been on this roster. We know who he is, and like we're comfortable with that. And when they signed, I'm like, okay, fine. And then they draft Taj Brooks. I'm like, oh, Taj Brooks takes that number 2 spot. But to be honest, Perine has been good, and he has helped this offense so much. And we know he's a good protector. But this guy is dead strength, strong, running through arm tackles, bowling guys over, explosive runs this year. Hey, he's had to be a kick returner. What was it, the second or third game when I can't remember what team it was, but they weren't kicking to Charlie Jones anymore, and they're directly kicking it at Samaje Perine. He's getting 30 yards a pop on these returns and just bowling through guys. And I think he's been good at whatever they've needed him to do throughout his career with the Bengals. He's going to be a guy that's like, not remembered in the future. We're going to go, to be 15 years. You'll be like, remember Samaje Perine? Like, yeah, that was a fun player. And, I like to watch him play because of that.
Yeah, totally agree. Awesome stuff. Joe, tell everybody what you got going on at Bengals on the Brain and where we can find all your great work.
Yeah, so check me out on Twitter, on X, at Joe Goodberry, where, the conversation, the content is mostly found. But if you're looking for a show, you're looking for me to watch film, we're heading into draft season soon here. You want to see me do draft breakdowns and watch prospects and get to know these guys, that's on the First Star YouTube media page. First Star Logistics produces 3 shows a week with me, where I do a post-game show, a preview show, and then we do a film review show. And check all those out. There's 3 of those a week, and you'll get all the content you need from me.
Joe Goodberry, great stuff, man. I appreciate you making some time. I know you're busy working some late nights here this week, but you stopped by. We appreciate the heck out of you for that, and would love to do it again, man. Thanks.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Stone.